Most of the shrub is going to be poison oak. Be careful as you're going down the trail, there is lots of it. But, one of the things that I have attached to this is an article that was written a couple of decades ago. I haven't gotten the date on it yet because I copied it out of something else. Right after they stopped burning Albany Hill on a regular basis. And he did a checklist and reported some of the plants that he saw. And he mentioned at that time that the toyon was just apparently introduced on the hill by birds, which anything with a red berry truck when it's dispersed by birds. And now it's actually quite a common shrub under the eucalyptus. One of the things that people sometimes say is that nothing grows under eucalyptus.
Barbara Ertter, botanist and collections manager at the University of California, Berkeley Herbarium, leads a plant walk on Albany Hill.
I'll point out this plant here with the pretty lacy leaves, the Yarrow, Achillea millipolium. I'll try to figure out if you want to comment expressions on that. This is one that's common, this is a native, but it's also common worldwide. It's a medicinal plant used for a lot of things. So if any of you are into medicinal plants, you've heard of yarrow. The main thing I can remember is that in case of a toothache, you chew a leaf and it helps them. Everybody's not familiar with it. Look closely. The Indians called it toyon. Anyhow, it's not that there's huge numbers of natives here, but it's not devoid of natives. If you go to some places, you can go hiking and a little wild lily. How pretty. Yeah, that is pretty.
Barbara has studied the flora of Albany Hill for the past 9 years while living on the north side of the hill across Cerrito Creek. This video is an excerpt of activities that took place on March 25, 1995, when the Friends of Albany Hill dedicated the new land acquisition purchased by the City of Albany. The Madison Street extension adds a half acre to the city-owned open space of 8 acres. As a prelude to the ceremonies, Dick Beitelman, a biologist and author of the Winter Bird Survey on Albany Hill, led a bird-watching group, and Barbara led her plant walk. Barbara Ertter and Carole Fitzgerald, president of the Friends of Albany Hill, share their thoughts on being stewards of Albany Hill.
Management of the hill, some of these work parties, is to help tip the balance the other way. We're not going in with bulldozers and getting rid of anything. It's just over time, if you give the natives a little bit more of the edge, then they can hold their own. It's a battle. Anybody who thinks that plants don't compete, Relative is Spanish broom, but this one is French broom. And it can form just totally solid stands. This patch, it's pretty well got nothing else except poison oak underneath it. There's some other places on the hill where there's just a few plants, and those are the ones that I'd really like to see removed before they become a solid patch. One of my philosophies is your efforts are much better spent first on those places where there's just a few plants, the ones that are the nucleus for where if you don't do something, it's going to take over. And then work from the edges of where there's already an existing stand, so that gradually the natives can move back in. It doesn't do any good to go into the middle of a stand of a non-native where it's already pushed everything else and make a hole that's just going to get filled in by the same non-native because that's the only thing there. By that point, you need to worry about outright restoration. On this hill, we don't need so much restoration, except maybe so along the creek, as we need tipping the balance and letting the things that are already here, and it's wonderful that we have so much, get its foothold back. If we can get the trilliums to spread, that would be great. If we can get the orchids, make sure that they have lots of habitat. Tip the balance. Alder, not to be confused with elderberry. Alder with an A, elderberry with an E, is a creekside tree that's native, and you can really see how this thornless blackberry is about ready to totally take it over.
Is the blackberry native?
No, it's a non-native. As a rule of thumb that works wonderfully in California, any round stem blackberry is a native. Any square stem blackberry, or five-angled actually, is a non-native.
So in the plan for the hill, is it like to remove that? To remove the
I'd like to see it out.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to say because, I mean, I can see leaving some clumps of the Himalayan blackberry, partially because they've already taken over so many areas anyhow, and they are tasty. I mean, they do have a value. But just to keep them within bounds. Again, don't bother get rid of the eucalyptus. You know, they have the purpose,
So if
you know.
it tastes good, non-natives are okay.
Well, it's more complicated than that. Non-native wild onion there with the pretty white flowers.
Oh, I've got them in my yard all over the place.
Yeah, they can take over. But I'm afraid that that's something we might want to kind of get rid of while we
if it's
can.
taking over
Because it can.
Now, are those edible? The root? I mean, can you
I don't know. I mean, it's an onion, so probably. I don't know if that makes a big poison. I will point out one of the plants that's quite common along here with these big leaves, and you might want to be careful with touching it because it's stinging Facilia. And it's not as stinging as a nettle, but handled wrong, it can make a little stinging. This is I think the only place in the East Bay that I know it. It's a native species. It's not in bloom yet. Notice it actually likes the disturbed soil of this road cut.
What is the bloom like?
It would be kind of purplish flowers in a cluster. So, anyhow, again, one of the only places in the East Bay it grows. One of the things that to me is interesting, one reason you find some interesting things on Albany Hill for the East Bay is it's one of the only places where you have a rocky area next to the water, a high area, a hill. And it's even right across from the Golden Gate, so you get all these marine influences. So this is actually one of the most coastal bluff-like places in the East Bay. Yeah, here's the California wild rose here. It tends to have big clusters of pink flower, quite common, usually closer to the water as compared to the wood rose, which only had single little flowers.
When do they usually bloom?
Well, it looks like it's getting a bud going right there. So give it another couple of months and it'll start blooming.
What was
and
the
then
name of
it'll
that
bloom.
again? I'm sorry.
This is the California rose.
Yeah, do they usually, roses usually bloom quite a bit of the year round, right?
It depends on the species. I mean, some of the ones that we have in cultivation, we've deliberately selected for blooming their little heads off
But
without...
something like this, I guess I was thinking about.
Uh-huh.
How long would it?
I haven't really sat down and paid attention to. Okay, started blooming and then I mean, what we don't know about plants far exceeds what we do. I mean, any of you could pick on a project and find out things about the plants that no scientist has ever... Okay, here, this is still the wild cucumber here.
Oh, okay.
But you should
But
be
it's in
paying
bloom.
attention to it. Yeah, I mean, it's been blooming for months. I mean, it'll keep blooming for a while. It'll have a spiny fruit, too, later on in the year. Or actually, I might find some already if we look. This is, like I say, a good plant. It's a native. It's, part of the system. Dies back down. We're coming to one that's very similar looking. That is... that one's a problem. Oh, actually, here's the California rose already starting to bloom.
Ah, yeah.
It'll have, here you can see fairly well that it has longer curved thorns, like a cat's claw. This is the California buckeye. It's the most magnificent California buckeye on the hill. There's some other ones scattered around. It tends to lose its leaves midsummer, go dormant.
Is that a native?
That's a native, the California buckeye.
Yeah, there are buckeyes along Albany Village, in South Cadlo. There, they have big spikes already.
But here on this side of the buckeye is where we start hitting something called German ivy for a common name. It's neither German nor an ivy. It's a Senecio from South Africa. You figure it. It looks a little bit like the manroot, but isn't. And I mean, it doesn't hard to see that this might be a plant to worry about.
The deer eat it.
They're not eating enough of it. Get them to eat more and that'll be good.
Bring
good
in the
start.
deer.
Someone from South Africa brought this in.
Well, it was, beautiful when it's like so many of these things, they're beautiful. In midwinter, this will have lovely clusters of yellow flower in December. But it doesn't mind its own business. It likes it here too well. Now, see, it's even climbing up into the oak trees there.
Yeah, it sort of is taking over, isn't it?
Oh, here's another plant that we've actually walked by a lot of. Here's last year's inflorescence. It'll be big. This is a non-native. It's another potential pesky plant. It also is highly poisonous, and that's another reason why it's something that might be discouraged. This is classic poison hemlock, the same one that did Socrates in. Beautiful carrot-like leaves. Purple spots on the stem is one of the characteristics that you're dealing with poison hemlock. Big, pretty white carrot-like flowers. Like I said, it's a big thing. And it requires a little bit more moisture, so that indicates that this is kind of a little bit of a wetter spot than some others. More of the onion, more of the mallow. I'm sorry. Oh, but here's the wild cucumber again. Fruit of the man root, by the way. They'll have a few great big seeds in it. Looks like they'd be great for necklaces. Okay, notice we're suddenly into a different selection of plants here. I mean, that's one reason it was worth the effort of coming. Beautiful fern right here, the Maidenhair Fern. And then the main fern, we got a whole bank there covered with California polypody. Most of the shrub here is called Sierra and Plum. It's the one, and it's a thicket that goes halfway up the hill too. I don't know whether it ever makes plums here in the East Bay, or whether it just is reproducing vegetatively through the roots. Same old Pacific Sanicle we've got lots of. Poison oak. But one of the other plants that I find interesting, and notice we've got a native grass here, one of the native bunch grasses, Millet Grass. But this plant right here I have a particular fondness for. It grows along this hill. It grows in only a couple of places in the East Bay. It's usually more coastal again, but this is one of our most coastal places we're going to find. This is the coast Horkelia. And why I find it interesting is because Horkelia is one of the plants that's my specialty. So when I first moved here 9 years ago, walked up on the hill and found Horkelia, I knew I was come to the right place.
Where did you live before?
Texas. For 3 years. That was long enough.
Is that bracken fern behind you?
No, that's goldback fern. We've actually been seeing quite a bit of it. It's got this different, I mean, you can see why it's called goldback fern. And in dry times it can shrivel up and then open up again. Maidenhair Fern. Okay. Well, this little place right here was my destination. Okay. And what we do from this point, we'll have to decide what we do. This little spot, some more people coming there? Yeah. This little spot is one of the closest you're going to find on the hill to the original California vegetation outside of, in the open grassland area. We've actually got one of the native bunch grasses right here. This is California state grass, in fact, the purple needle grass. You can see why it might have the name needle grass. It has these long lines coming off of it. Plenty of blue dick all over the place. Chlorophrodia or Diclostomum. The yellow violets here, Johnny Jump Up, very common in this spot. Plenty of soap fruit still, benches, right here. Mostly the dead stems that won't bloom until fall. Leaves right here. This is the wild buckwheat that I said has close to a rare butterfly. A lot of things aren't in bloom here yet, which is unfortunate.
Is this the spot you were talking about?
These? Yeah. That's a wild geranium. Like the ones you asked me about, the wild geranium. This is checker spot or checker mallow. It'll bloom and have big, beautiful pink flowers. Another native. Lots more of the buttercup up here. The mule ears aren't in bloom yet. Or the coyote mint. I don't know, just come back here on your own sometime and enjoy it, but try not to step on the plants too much. I mean, mostly I am stepping on the non-natives, so.